Howdy. I hope everyone had a great day. It's Friday. I'm thrilled that it's Friday. I had an excellent day. My typical client meetings and all my running. And then I came home to the studio and I really spent some time down here thinking about how things are lit, how you are viewing what I'm doing. I had some incredible dialogue with my cousin Tony Marie today, who lives in Florida, and said that she felt a loss that she was not seeing my surface, and how could we be better at that? So I've rigged some stuff in the office, or in the studio space, and I'm gonna do a simple wreath right now because these are supplies that I have on hand. I will get back to my chopped crafting with the raw materials that are in the house, the found materials. But right now I'm just gonna do a very simple wreath. You know, simple store-bought wreath, one of the big craft stores. This, I have these actually stacked in the attic. They get all smushed up. Like, it's not a very, heavy-duty pine. So they need a little fluffing, when you decide that you're gonna readorn them. It had other stuff on it. This is part of my attic clean out. So in the process, I kind of got this wreath all back, fluffed up, fairly good. My intention here is to do a winter wreath as opposed to particular Christmas wreath. So I'm going to stick with neutral shades, some bird nests, definitely some of the natural pine cones, also some of the whitewash that I've been using because I went through and whitewashed a number of them. But I really want this to be a wreath that if you chose to keep it up, all the way through the new year and then deep into January, it wouldn't feel particularly Christmassy or holiday, it would feel more winter. So please stay with me and I'm going to show you how this process unfolds. Thank you, Tony Marie, for the suggestion. You're going to just hear me for a bit and not see me. Usually when I do a wreath like this, or really any wreath, I oftentimes will start with the ribbon. This is, craft store ribbon, things again that I always have on hand. This is the ribbon that's wired, which I really love. And when you make a bow, I normally start with a circle like that, and I give it a pinch. And then you take each petal and you give it a twist and a loop. And a twist and a loop. And you continue that until you get the ribbon to the size that you want. I think that I'm probably on this wreath going to do a 6-petal bow. So again, there you're making your loop. And every time I bring it back in, I'm pinching it where I began. These last 2 loops are going to be the biggest. So that's a twist, and you're going to go out further than these 2. And again, twist and further than these 2. You'll notice that the wired ribbon sometimes has a tendency to coil as you're working with it, but that's all fine and good. And you fasten this off with a pipe cleaner. These come in various colors. I usually always have black ones on hand and the florist green ones. Those are the 2 that I keep in the house more than anything. And then you just give that a pinch and a twist. There is your ribbon. I will tell you one thing that everyone should own, if you don't, is an excellent pair of fabric scissors. I have a fabric pair, and I also have a fabric pair, but these ones say ribbon only. This is a must. A bad pair of shears does you no good in the studio. That cuts so beautifully. There you go. So here's your bow. I am going to start to assemble this wreath. I'm going to get my bow there and I'm going to coil some ribbon through, and then I will start to add some of the fun stuff. The pine cones, this great little nest. I have some fun birds to play with, so this is going to be fun. Stay with me. So my bow is made and affixed. Now I'm going to cut a couple lengths of ribbon like this. I usually cut ribbon on an angle. I like the way that will end. I would do 2, I would guess maybe 12, 15 inches or so. I'm going to take this little bit of ribbon like this, and I'm going to make a little knot around that with this pipe cleaner. Because this, I'm then going to nestle into the pine, and I am going to kind of coil this bow, or this tail of a bow, inside and out of the greens. So there we got that tied off. And you kind of go in, because you don't want that raw space to really be seen. You go in and you get this affixed to a piece of the greens, like so. And then you just kind of make a couple of little, you want it to look like it's ribboning through, like you want that kind of waviness to it. Usually what I'll do is I'll just take a piece and I'll pinch it, and then I'll just twist a piece of the actual pine wreath, and then I'll direct it the way that I want it so that it has this kind of motion to it. I'm gonna do the same on the other side, and then I'm gonna put the simple decorations on it. This really is a project that could take you all of 15 minutes if you have the stuff on hand. It's time for the fun. There we are so far. Now we're gonna put some fun stuff on this. I definitely want pine cones, some various sizes, these kind of smaller, kind of a gathering of pine cones in different shapes. And then I'm going to incorporate some of the white ones in as well. But the fun part of this is many, many, many years ago, I bought these kind of sparkly, they're like a twine ball, and they were covered with gold sparkle glitter, which inundated my entire house those first couple of Christmases, at which point I bagged them up and I brought them into the attic. The attic is like a graveyard for items that I can't part with. So when I was up there, dug these out, and I thought, I don't really like this necessarily as a ball shape anymore. So what can I do with these? So I squished one down as best I could. I'm gonna pull that so you could see that. Took that, and I pushed this down. And of course it makes glitter all over the world. And I turned it into a little bird nest. So this is going to also be incorporated into this wreath. Because I am notorious for reinventing, I usually do not hot glue things, because at that point you're kind of locked in. Undoing something that's been hot glued is a little tricky. So I tend to be more about just wiring some of these decorations or adornments in, because then it'll give me flexibility if in fact I want to disassemble this and use some of these pieces and parts for something else. That particular pine cone had a wire on it. Most of these do, because at one point they were in fact somewhere else on some other wreath or within a garland. So you just, you take it and you kind of think about, okay, how do I want this to feel? Do I want this to flow this way? Is this the top of my wreath? Is this the top of my wreath? Is this the top of my wreath? I'm kind of feeling that this is the top. So I'm gonna do my decorating in that fashion. So I'll just continue to, take some cones and just twist them onto the actual, just twist them onto the pine of the wreath. Like you don't even need to, none of this needs to be wired in particularly super secure. This is gonna be in a protected spot. Even if it was on your front door, it would be, that's secure enough. Now I have a bigger cone here. This has no wire on it. So this, I'm gonna, well, it did at one point. This I'm gonna take a twist tie, and you kind of go into the base of the pine cone, and you go around and you create a little tail or a connector, and you connect that in. I want this one, I think, in this area. This one I actually am going to go into the framework of the wreath. All these wreaths are built like on a metal frame. You see that? I'm just gonna go into that framework, and I'm gonna twist that because it's a little bit heavier of a pine cone. Once you get it positioned where you want it, you can twist these around and fiddle with it. Get this to have a rhythm that feels, natural. I'm gonna continue doing this. I'm gonna add some of the white pine cones, and when I return, I will show you this completed wreath. So I am almost completed with this wreath. You can see that I have added a series of different pine cones, some other greens that I had, a couple of leaves, and just kind of made this feel kind of wintry, or I'm thinking this feels wintry with the bay leaves. And here's my nest, which I had smashed. This I'm going to also wire down to the frame of the mirror, of the wreath, the metal wreath ring, because this has a little bit of weight to it. And this is just green florist wire. The reason I'm using that is I don't want to see inside the nest. I would not want to see the pipe cleaner. The green kind of disappears. Let me flip that over. I caught my metal ring. See, this is what I mean, how this is on these metal rings. Just going to coil that around pretty tight. And when I flip this over, we'll kind of get this nest as if it would be sitting like that. That's kind of how you want it to feel. And the last little thing I have to do is perhaps add a bird to that nest. I'm not sure if I want an empty nest or a full one, but when I return, I will show you what I had decided. Well, it's all completed, and in the end I decided that a full nest was much better than an empty nest. Added that little bird and one little pine cone at the very end. This is my little woodland winter wreath. Always thank you for joining me. This is just encouraging me to do more and more and more. I really appreciate it. Tony Murray, thank you for your tips on the new camera angle. I hope that you are satisfied. And to my friend Lori out there, I am pondering some Hanukkah decorations. I'm hoping that I can conquer what I'm hoping to based on the materials that I have unearthed in my garage this afternoon with your request in mind. Everyone have a great night and a lovely weekend. See you soon.